This is Empty the Bench with Tom Albano.
Prior to coming back from, they didn't necessarily have to come back from COVID because they were in the off season. They actually got lucky, but they hammered out their issues early. MLB should have taken a lesson from the NFL.
Nick Morgeson.
We're going to come to the table. We're going to put our bullshit aside, and we're going to come to a deal. But why would I have expected anything different from MLB and the MLBPA? Because in turn, this is all we got.
And Nick Federa.
If the preceding 10 minutes hadn't happened, I would be up here saying, finally, the NL is moving into the distant future of 1975.
Empty the Bench starts now.
Step right up and watch the amazing Rob Manfred tank his own career.
Well then, the clown show begins.
A little too late to that. A little too late to that. You know, he can't really save himself anymore. He's pretty far down.
Well, we've sunken so far into the MLB, MLBPA negotiations that I've kind of lost track of who's winning at this point. But let's introduce everybody.
Nobody. The answer is nobody. I'm just going to say that now.
That's Tom Albano. That's Nick Federa. That's Johnny Montalbano. I'm Nick Morgeson. Yes, we're a foursome this week. First time in a very long time.
Empty the Bench episode 122. We make history with a 4-person show. Around the Horn, Eat Your Heart Out.
Oh, man, one of my favorite shows growing up. But you know what? I don't know. Where are we starting? Because this show kind of got flipped upside down. Where are we going, Tom?
So I know we do have some breaking news to talk about involving a certain NFL coach. I know we do have a very big pressing matter involving Major League Baseball. But, guys, we do have to lead, even if it's just for 5 to 10 minutes, because this is the first time that we are together on the air following Super Bowl 56, in which the Los Angeles Rams have won the Super Bowl for the first time since 1999. Since the 1999-2000 season. They are the Super Bowl champions, defeating the Bengals 23-20 in I have to say, a very entertaining, closely battled matchup.
Well, what we can say, though, is there was still referee gate involved in the last 2 minutes of the game.
Isn't there always?
But that's my question. How are you very hands-off for the first 58 minutes of the game, and then in the last 2 minutes, that's when you start throwing flags like crazy?
Hey, Nick.
I mean, I don't know if you could say the Bengals choked.
No. I'm saying the referee.
I'm saying the referee's choking on his own flag.
Yeah, he's choking on his own flag, but still, I mean, it's almost like a Zen riddle. How can you do nothing and then everything all together at once?
I have no answer. Go ahead, John.
I would say that. I also would say the missed call, the face mask call that was missed was also
terrible.
A big deal.
Terrible.
I mean, as somebody who likes to think he can officiate as well, I like the fact that they let him. I like the fact that they let him play for the first 95% of the game. I mean, these two teams were among the least penalized, if not the two least penalized teams in the league this year. So it did kind of make sense. But then towards the end, to make it like on those last couple of possessions, I think took away from it a little bit. But I'll tell you what, I mean, I look at the game itself, and it was very entertaining. The game, let's focus on the game itself. I thought the game was great. I thought this was going to be a close one. I thought, like we said during the Super Bowl show last Sunday, I thought these two teams were very evenly matched. And you know what? I would say this, the Bengals got away almost the entire season with their offensive line being in shambles, and they almost made it the entire season. And at the end of the day, that one last drive, it ultimately did them in. But I still don't take away from how great this game was.
I mean, funny enough, we're talking about refereeing and how good this game is. They showcase how Aaron Donald, for, as MVP-worthy efforts as he were, he was offsides on that 4th and 1 in which he made the big stop. So that's.
But wait a minute. You're telling me that Cooper Kupp brought more value to that game than Aaron Donald?
Yeah, and that's what pisses me off, because Aaron Donald should have been the MVP and not Cooper Kupp, because if he does not make that sack on 4th down, they don't win that game.
And actually, they get a first down. At least if they don't get it right then and there, that clock is extended. They have plenty of.
Are you telling me are you telling me? Well, are you telling me that Cooper Kupp wasn't worthy of any praise because he had a pair of touchdown catches that were pretty crucial in this game?
Right. I mean, it's true. Cooper Kupp, first of all, Triple Crown winner, big time MVP type caliber season, but Aaron Donald is a beast in a lot of ways.
No, he is.
I'm a little biased. Maybe I'll be a little biased because I picked Aaron Donald to win MVP last week on the show. But you know, it's very tough for a defensive player to win it. You know, it's more of an offensive league. I think because Kupp had 2 touchdowns throughout the game, and Donald, while he did, I mean, the last drive, he definitely showed his presence there. I mean, it could have been that maybe because we really
Kupp had a bigger role throughout the game.
Throughout, and Donald showed it up late. I mean, of course, you know, I still think Donald should have won it, but I mean, I don't think you can really argue the fact that Kupp was also very, very valuable too.
Right, that's my argument. No, what Johnny's saying is my argument. Now, I think we can all agree that, thankfully, they were going to pick either Kupp or Donald. That Matthew Stafford wasn't going to, because that was what did I say? That was going to be my fear. What did I say? That probably Kupp or Chase should have been the MVP, but I very much feared. I had predicted Stafford or Burrow because of how often they give it to the quarterback, even when the wide receiver has the big day.
And the last defensive player to win it, I think, was Malcolm Smith.
Yes.
Malcolm.
It was Malcolm Smith. Yeah, I think so. But what's funny about this, and first of all, halftime show, one of the best halftime shows I've seen in years. Speaking
it made everybody of a certain age feel really, 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 really old.
It exceeded my expectation. I thought it was going to be a dud, but you know what? I have to be fair. I thought it was very, very good. Would I say it's the best of all time? I'm not ready to say that. I would say though it was very good.
By the way, points to Snoop Dogg for smoking weed right before he went on stage.
It's like, what else is he supposed to do? He's Snoop Dogg. It'd be weird if he didn't.
Correction. Von Miller, Super Bowl 50.
Oh, right.
Yes.
But the Super Bowl halftime show was good. The commercials were good. By the way, that cryptocurrency commercial with the bouncing barcode, probably one of the best commercials I've ever seen.
That takes some guts to do.
I will say this. I did not really pay attention that much to the commercials this year, but that one stuck out the most to me.
It did. Look, it was unique.
And I'll tell you what, you know why? Because you're watching it and you're waiting for something else to happen, and it's just the bouncing barcode for a good 20 of the 30 seconds. I really thought it did hit it. It did stick out.
I thought it was a mistake. I literally thought it was a mistake, like something was going on NBC.
Yeah, that's why. Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought, as I say, I think it was a 60-second commercial. It was like 55 seconds. That felt forever.
Just
it's funny. When nothing goes on, it feels like an eternity.
That was probably a minute commercial, if I'm guessing. So they probably paid $14 million for a bouncing barcode.
Yeah. Hey, did any of you scan it?
No.
Nope.
I did.
I thought about it. I thought about it, but I was with a group of friends, and I was like,
"What did you do? What did you get from scanning the barcode?"
Oh, it just says, "Hey, do this, and you'll get some cryptocurrency. You can start."
Damn, I missed out.
Well, I'm curious if you go. I'm sure on YouTube you can go back and find it. I wonder if you could scan it there, and it'll do it, and you can still get something.
You probably could, but I don't know. Some of the commercials were good. There was some interesting with the Flavor Town one with Guy Fieri was really good.
Well, let's put it this way: the halftime show and the commercials were made, in my opinion, to make our generation feel old.
The Office one, the one about the Office was pretty funny. Also,
just a forewarning for my fellow New York hosts: you might be getting an emergency alert very soon. Mine just popped up on my phone.
Oh, good. So are we going to get blasted with a loud sound too?
If your phone is not off, if your phone is not on silent, yes.
It's on vibrate. Does that matter?
I just put it on. I don't know. Anyway, did anyone see what happened after the game with Matt Stafford with that woman falling off the stage?
Oh man, that was bad.
Yeah. I heard about it. Yeah.
Did you hear also that apparently she had some not so nice things on her Twitter account? Also,
what a bizarre story.
And by the way,
it is.
Pat McAfee, of all people, who apparently donated to the GoFundMe account, apparently was getting criticized because he thought he was helping someone, and then everyone's going after him, and everyone's going after her. And I love how Matt Stafford was just standing there watching the woman fall off the stage, not doing anything.
Yeah. I still don't really know enough about the story. I mean, I heard a little bit about it. I mean, the only thing I remember post game really was the marriage proposal, which, by the way, Nick, good call on you, by the way, on our prop bet. That was probably the second lock of the second best prop bet of the Super Bowl. Of course, you know what the best prop bet was with the over on the anthem. I told you at the time, you always take the over on the anthem.
I posted it.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. The way she was going with the singing, it actually was a scare for a second. Like, wait a minute, this actually might go under. And then, but then she held the, of the free, and I like, it's going over.
Of course, because I call it the Christina Aguilera effect, where she literally holds out every note, every note. So that's the reason why they started doing the prop bet, because she was the one that. Because they didn't have it at the time. They just thought it was obnoxious how long she was singing for airtime. God.
Yeah.
All right.
I mean, it could have been worse. She could have had a streaker.
No. You know what would have been worse? Fergie. That would have been worse.
I will.
No, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say I will say one thing. I do feel bad for Odell, because this was his really a chance for him to really shine. He scores the first touchdown of the game, and then he tears his ACL, and I'll tell you, I mean, you knew when that injury happened that it was going to be a torn ACL, non-contact knee injury. I mean, that just had ACL written all over it. And it was the same knee that he had hurt in Cleveland, right?
Yes. But by the way, let's point out one thing. He had a touchdown in the game, so he contributed plenty.
Oh, that's what I'm saying. I mean, the team won. That's why I kind of felt bad for him, because he had his touchdown, he had his moment, and there was a golden opportunity, and then in a non-contact knee injury. And so now, I mean, he gets a Super Bowl ring, but now you wonder what his future is going to be, because now that injury is going to probably take him out for, I'd say, most of next season.
No, they said he's going to be back. They said he's going to be ready to go for next season.
Well, you know what? That might just be
but
you know what, though? I will say, I mean, it could just be a sign of the times that, a lot of football players tear their ACL, and maybe they're just, more equipped to it. So maybe they can heal. They find ways to heal faster. It could
I will say, if they manage to get, if they really do get OBJ back, you're going to have Kupp, OBJ, and Robert Woods and Van Jefferson as your four wide receivers. That's sick.
That's
scary.
Sick.
That is sick.
That's like Tom Brady, Gronk. What names I'm leaving out? Mike Evans. It's like the most dangerous quartet in all of sports.
Yeah, because you start wondering now if they can, because one of the topics you'll talk about this offseason will be can they repeat? Can the Bengals make it back? And as much as I say the Bengals have a pretty good chance, you have to remember that they still have to go through the Chiefs in the AFC. So it's not going to be as easy. I mean, if they could shore up that offensive line, yeah, they definitely do have the playmakers to go back there again. But it's very difficult in a 17-game season to do that again.
I'll give you one note also. Zach Taylor, the head coach of the Bengals, signed an extension through 2026 as well. So they have trust in him in the long term to go.
I was going to say, I'm a little scared in the long term, but, I do think the Bengals will be back because the Bengals are a very young team. As long as they stay healthy, that's my concern, that basically this was their only healthy season. So that way next season, maybe the injuries will start piling up. But this goes to what I said, even on our Super Bowl special, that I think it was the Rams' time. I think it was a must win when you consider all the first round picks and all the draft picks that they traded to get the likes of Odell. I mean, not Odell, to get the likes of Von Miller. The fact that they had to sign Odell after the Robert Woods injury, which should have ended their season. All the picks that they had to trade to get Matthew Stafford in LA, so that way they can open their window 1 or 2 more years when it should have been shut. This was LA Super Bowl.
It's like I said to you, Tom. It's like I said to you, Tom. If Woods doesn't go down and they get Odell, we're talking about my famous phrase, fallacy of a predetermined outcome. You don't know what's going to happen with Woods being out and Odell.
But that's the thing. I even remember doing a minute on this when they signed Odell. I was like, wait a minute, this is a mistake. That Odell wasn't going to be able to match Woods' production. And even even regardless of that, Cooper Kupp just had that good of a season. He and Stafford just connected so much that Robert Woods going down all of a sudden didn't matter. Yeah.
I mean, it's clearly money in the bank, and I don't mean cryptocurrency. Anyway, but
go ahead.
I
was saying one other thing I gotta say. Aaron Donald, should he? They're talking about retirement stuff. I don't know if he should. I mean, he still seems like he can go. You know who should retire now though? Andrew
Stafford?
Whitlock.
Oh,
Andrew Whitlock, the offensive.
He's been around forever.
He's been around forever. He played on the Bengals, was All-Pro a couple of times there. Went to LA, got an All-Pro there, and now in this most recent Super Bowl, he was on LA winning the Super Bowl against his former team and won Walter Payton Man of the Year.
I was just about to say he's one of the most charitable guys in all of the NFL. Didn't he? What did he donate? Like $750,000 or something? Like I read that he was donating money up the wazoo. I mean, this guy is amazing.
And only like the third ever player or something to reach the Super Bowl at the age of 40, joining like Brady and somebody else. Was it like Peyton? I think. That's a storybook ending. You got to go out there.
I think he did. I think he did after the game announce that that was it. I know Weddle's done because he's actually they came out today and said that he's going to go to become a high school coach.
Well, he's hurt. Like he was damaged. Like you saw they put on the harness during the game because I think he had some torn pec. And he talk about NFL players being some of the most toughest athletes there are out of all four sports. Sorry, but they are. I don't want to hear about any other sport. Baseball pansies in terms of the NFL. So he went out there with a harness to hold his shoulders in, for crying out loud. But I'll wrap this up and say one thing. If that quartet comes back, especially with Woods, you're going to have a true, and I'm circling this full circle to the halftime show. They'd be true California loving if they really came back.
That's the opportunity. They would have a strong opportunity to still win another Super Bowl in the next year or two.
Oh yeah. Absolutely.
If Sean McVay, we didn't even talk about this. If Sean McVay decides to go to the booth, which talk about the question mark would come up on the top of my head if that happened.
Oh,
well, not mistake, but I feel like they still have a strong enough team that they can still have success.
He'd be an idiot to walk away now. But...
All right, let's go. Let's talk the breaking news before we move on to baseball. Now let's talk about the breaking news. The Steelers have made a hire in the senior assistant linebacker area, and his name is Brian Flores.
Wait, what?
So, ladies and gentlemen,
who is currently suing the NFL.
Yes, so ladies and gentlemen, where we last left you, he was suing the NFL for discrimination, and this is definitely, I'd admit, just off the top of my head, because I had just heard this minutes before we went on. So, taking into account what we know and what we've discussed on the show before, I'd say this is not what he was expecting to get.
Wait, I have two things I could play here. One is this one.
Did we just become best friends? Yep.
Yeah, him and Mike Tomlin.
And then between the NFL and who said that all teams basically said they're not going to hire him. This is how I refer.
So, my take is this actually good for his lawsuit? I don't know.
I mean,
because somebody has given him a job. It's not like not like he was completely blacklisted.
First of all, Tomlin did it to probably put a thumb in the eye of Goodell.
No, I can tell you what it is. It's black coach for black coach. It's the only black coach left in the NFL as a head coach.
You've got to be able to help him somehow, because.
No, but let's just call a spade a spade. Let's cut through the bullshit and realize that he's the only black head coach left.
If the Jaguars could waste all that money hiring Urban Meyer and he didn't even last a goddamn season.
Well, that was a mistake before Brian Flores got fired. I don't know what the Jaguars were doing hiring Urban Meyer.
And as a Giants fan, I'm not entirely convinced that they shouldn't have hired him and not Brian Daboll.
Yeah, but as soon as the lawsuit came out.
Until I see different, I'm going to expect that the same is going to occur with Brian Dabble as it did with Joe Judge.
My point was that, he hasn't been completely blacklisted like a Kaepernick. So now that the Steelers offered him this job, like, I get your point about Tomlin being the only black coach, but in terms of like letter of the law stuff, I think this actually damages his lawsuit. It
definitely. If
it doesn't help it.
If a job is what the specific language in the lawsuit was, then you don't really have many legs to stand on.
But I'm surprised.
But if it's a coaching job, then you could say, yeah, this is a considerable downgrade to where I was.
Yeah, but wait a minute. I'm surprised because, like Tom said, you file a lawsuit. Usually you get blackballed by the sport that you file a lawsuit against, especially Roger Goodell and the NFL. If you go against the Shield, you're going to get blackballed. Now, I don't know if you guys agree. Johnny, I want to hear. You've been a little quiet. I want to hear.
You're good. Look, I mean, it might be a win-win for Flores because, you know what, he could still file this lawsuit and then he might still end up becoming a head coach because maybe he's building his way back to being a head coach for the down the road for the Steelers.
Yeah, but how can you file a lawsuit against a league that's going to give you a job? Like that makes no sense.
Well, you almost have to dig into the details of the lawsuit. It was like Nick just said, is it about the coaching position? Is it about positions in the NFL in general? Because, I mean, the GM position's got multiple black people as in the GM spot, but why is that like not a big deal? Because we don't see them. I mean, they hold power. It's a tricky thing.
Well, you are right in that when I consider about when you were talking about Tomlin about potentially grooming to be the next. I mean, how long does Tomlin actually have in Pittsburgh? Maybe this is a grooming thing that Flores could step into the next head coach position. I didn't even think Tomlin was going to last into this season.
Well, all we know is apparently he's not going to USC because he said the budget's not big enough to support him and his large salary request.
I mean, they'd pay it. They absolutely would pay it. But
no, they wouldn't.
USC would get. Are you kidding? The way they throw around money.
Well, you're talking about boosters. The boosters is a whole different situation than.
But let's not lose sight of the bigger picture here, gentlemen.
Right.
The issues that Flores brought up in that lawsuit was not just the discrimination thing. It was the fact that teams were offered to pay him to tank.
Yeah, that's the other case.
Wait a minute.
Glossed over.
Wait a minute. I have a crazy theory again here.
Oh, no.
So what happens if the Steelers are bringing him in to tank behind Tomlin?
No,
I am giving you a mute for that one, and you are officially out of here.
Look, if they want to let me just say, if they want to do that, then they'll start Mason Rudolph at quarterback next year. That'd be a start.
No, I'm serious because technically they don't have a quarterback right now.
Well,
they
might be drafting Pickett. Remember we talked about with slog.
Kenny Pickett seems to be the most logical thing that makes sense for Pittsburgh. I mean, or maybe not doesn't make sense, but it just seems like the logic there. Going to Pittsburgh, going there. I mean, it's not a big quarterback draft. I mean, he may be the first one that goes off the board and might be in the late round. So,
but you are right that regardless of what happens, with the discrimination part of the lawsuit, it doesn't resolve what's being, as you said, Nick Federa, being buried here, and that teams are allegedly paying these coaches to tank. That's a bigger issue, I think.
Which I believe wholeheartedly, and I think that even Brian was saying that's a bigger deal than it should be.
Well, this whole thing is crazy. I mean, he deserves a job. We all agree that he deserves a job somewhere. He should be a head coach. He took a 1-8 team and turned it into a 9-8 team. I mean, like, we're talking about history.
The Dolphins are foolish for firing him in the first place.
Yes,
let's be real.
Yeah, because he had a GM and an owner that were actively hostile.
Well, it also doesn't help that the owner owned a casino business and was allegedly affecting bets at his casino business.
That's the other thing. Because if you don't think that one hand is scratching the other when it comes to the NFL and gambling, it's just.
One thing I will say is, Tom, I agree with you. I think it's possible he could become the next head coach in Pittsburgh, but I think it's going to take a while because of this lawsuit, and teams are going to be afraid to hire him as a head coach. That's going to be the issue going forward.
All right, let's get out of football. I'll say we do have another football story, but that's way more for the end. Let's talk about another story that has become quite big. So we do have a couple of MLB stories to talk about here, but this one has become big. It is an update to the MLB and MLBPA negotiations. Now that sounds, like we talk about this all the time, not exactly important. However, within the last 48 hours, reports have come out that February 28th is the big deadline. If by the end of the month, if by the time we go to flip our calendars from February to March, a deal is not in place, there will be a delay of the regular season.
Nick, I'm just going to save the response for you.
Congratulations, dickweeds.
Congratulations, dickweeds. You've done this to yourselves. And I think we're all in agreement here that they're screwed. They are royally screwed.
Well, I had that response, and I think this one's appropriate too.
None of us are expecting them to, because they're too far. Did it say how far apart they were in that story?
Yeah, they
pretty
are.
far.
They are significantly apart. They had a 15-minute meeting the other day.
Because you know why? Because here's how the process works. Here is, let's say we had the, what was it, like the 7-minute meeting right before the end of the
7-minute meeting in January.
Right.
Then
here's what happens. One side will say, here's our offer. The other side will then say no, then take a week, then give a counter offer, and then the other side says no, we'll counter offer in another week. Why do you think we haven't moved so significantly in so long? Because they keep putting things off, like a high school student who continues to put off his paper until the last minute.
I mean, in this case, they should know better, but
it's been years in the making, guys. I mean, that's what it comes
and that's
down.
My other frustration.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean,
did you not hear my clip from last week in the intro?
Yes.
The fact that in 2020, when they were fighting tooth and nail with one another, and just over the fact of trying to come back from COVID, when we knew what was coming, things should have been done earlier. But no,
I said this in 2019.
The end of the contract. Shut up, Nick. Wait till the end of the contract, and then all of a sudden now we have progress. We'll try to have progress, and in case their version of progress is, well, we'll get back to that later.
Yeah, I'm glad in these meetings that they want to speed up the game. I didn't realize they want to speed up meetings. That's not necessarily what they wanted to do. That's not really the name.
Maybe that's the secret to it that we never realized. Maybe that's how you do it.
Well, maybe now we'll have 15-hour meetings instead of 15 minutes.
No, that was appropriate.
Look, they're trying to make it sound good by saying they're going to meet every day next week. Let me tell you, that is just like false
lip service.
Yeah, it's lip service.
Lip
I mean, nobody's
blah, blah.
By the way, I'll take that one on the chin. Anyway, but basically what I'll say is this whole negotiation nonsense, and I said it last week, and you guys almost had shocking faces when I said it last week. It's like going to the school dance. They're trying to have a relationship. One's cheating on the other, and then they end up fucking. Okay? Like, it's a relationship, which is a working relationship, like you said, Tom. They can't figure it out.
I mean, I don't know if I would use those terms, but I mean, Tom, you said this is a monster of their own making. This is worse than 94. You've said that multiple times.
And the aftermath is going to be worse than 94.
You don't have a home run chase to save you this time.
Oh, wait a minute.
You know what? You're not going to save me, at least for 2022. I'm about to make my promise.
Time out. I wouldn't say it's as bad as 94 until we know if we have a season. Because 94, we didn't have a season. Okay, so
but we had some of 94, and then we didn't have a whole. There's a chance in 2022 right now. The way they're going, we may not have baseball. Period.
No, I agree with you. And first of all, I'll be the first one to say, if there's no baseball season, the fans are going to be gone. They're going to be long gone. There's going to be zero if they don't have.
They're not going to be blaming the owners. They're going to be blaming the league. They're going to be blaming baseball proper.
Look, I think it's coming to the point now. I don't think it matters even if they agree by next week. I mean, the way that this has been handled, I think you're going to be losing fans regardless. You might lose some regardless. And it's not only just because of this, it's because this is the second time in 3 years that this is happening. I understand you had COVID 3 years back in 2020, but the way that was handled when, a lot of the country was, us regular people were really struggling with COVID, and these guys are complaining they want their full salaries and then they're only playing 60 games. I mean, you almost had a little sympathy for the owners in that point, but this is coming to a point now where both sides, I mean, they could not agree. I mean, they couldn't agree what the sky color is. It's gotten to be that bad. So
Johnny,
I mean, I've said this. I mean, I'm going to be doing this on possibly for minutes coming up, but this is just I don't see how at any point that are we going to have a season? I think we're going to have a season at some point, but I don't think it's going to be that bad. But it's come to the point now, the way that these two sides are and the optics of all this, that you are going to lose a good chunk of your fan base no matter what.
I would honestly stretch your point, Johnny, about 2020, even still to this day. I mean, even still to this day, when you think about the lives, how everybody we're trying to, get back to normal. We're trying to still have, schools and normal. But, you look on the news and there's still COVID talk. There's still the high, intensity of the political spectrum. Baseball and other sports are meant to be an escape from life. And it seems like in the case with the MLB negotiations, we don't get that escape. We still have the tensions. We still have people, these billionaires versus millionaires fighting over one another, when meanwhile there are still people out there,
who can't afford to go to a game.
Who can't afford to go to a game. And that was problems before COVID. But, there are still people whose lives haven't been able to get back into shape because of COVID.
Well, what's very interesting, though, and a lot of people are not talking about this, COVID was a pretense to what the labor negotiations were. When those negotiations went down and they were trying to figure out how many games they were going to play, whether it was 60 or 100. Guys, the three of us talked about this for weeks and months along end.
Yeah, originally they were aiming for 100, and then it was 81.
But wait.
And then it was 60.
But trying, like Johnny said, stop being petty, greedy athletes. Get back on the field. The money will be made up eventually. Once you guys get back on the field, you get those items being sold. You get those advertisements being sold. You got to get back on the field for the money to be made.
See, I'm of the exact opposite. I think that no. I think the owners are being too greedy here, because believe me, you have the money and you refuse to invest it in your team.
But Nick,
I can't say that, Nick. I can't say that for every owner. There are some owners who do invest in their team, but then you have owners like that down in Tampa Bay who will put it in their.
Well,
you're telling me if there was no salary tax, that Hal Steinbrenner would be as frugal as he has been over the past couple of years?
Absolutely, yes.
Even if there was no financial penalty for being over a certain amount of money.
Because we've talked about this, and Tom, you know this too. He wants to put the money in his pocket. He doesn't care about spending it anymore. Steinbrenner of old, the father, would have spent every nickel and dime he had to bring every star in.
I won't argue that point.
No. That's not debatable. But the thing is, I mean, Hal at least makes a pretense of trying to improve the team.
No, he hasn't.
But the problem I have.
I'll say this: keep that point in mind. If the Yanks don't bring back Aaron Judge,
then that becomes a fucking problem, Johnny.
Well, what's interesting is the Aaron Judge similarity. It kind of reminds me of Noah Syndergaard, who's now with the Angels, where he was kind of at that middle age, trying to figure out if they're going to bring him back.
He was injured though. He was injured though.
But long story short, if we look at how this whole situation is, COVID was a pretensor, like I said. That was almost like a pre-labor negotiation, trying to get back on the field. That's
what I'm saying. That's what I was saying by all that.
Yeah, he was saying
they should have handed it out then and there, like the NFL and the NFLPA did. Now, I do understand Nick's point, and sometimes I do agree with it. Like, we'll talk about Juan Soto in a second, like when you see players rejecting these offers. And again, it goes back to what I was saying before, some people's lives haven't recovered from COVID. It's like, I wish I made, the amount of money we did. But now the owners in the most recent proposal have done something that, if you guys know, Nick, you guys know me about minor league baseball. Johnny, you don't know, I am passionate for minor league baseball. That have pissed me off. And that they are looking now to cut more spots and more teams with minor baseball.
He lives in Staten Island.
I live in Staten Island. We just lost our team. We now have an Atlantic League team. So
see, I live 15 minutes from the Myrtle Beach Pelicans, which are the Class A affiliate of the Cubs. So absolutely, I know. I understand.
So you're ruining baseball for the local communities, and furthermore, the purpose of, I'd say, as bad as as bad as the 120 cuts were, part of the purpose of that was to, bring the minor league pay up, because you were at the point where basically, like 2019, I was working like 3 jobs and I was making as much as a minor league baseball minimum player. That they were in that bad of a scenario. Now you're looking to cut more. As somebody who loves the minor leagues, that's sickening.
There are some minor leaguers making between $10,000 and $30,000. You can't live a life on $10,000 to $30,000.
You can get more by working part time. You can get more of that working at a fast food joint.
That's why I'd say between the Juan Soto situation, between the negotiations that are going on forever, my team being a dumpster fire with money, and just the minor league treatments. That's why I don't know if Johnny's heard me make that proclamation on an earlier episode, but if they don't agree on 28th, I'm done. I'm not watching baseball this season.
It's even more than just that. It's even when they were playing the games, all these like rules and stuff they were doing, the quote unquote speed up the game, and it wasn't working.
You're right. I'd say, who are you trying to turn on here? Because you're turning everybody off. The older people are turned off.
I mean, when you watch the games, do you see how many people in those front rows are actually on their phones and stuff? There's so. I mean, we could spend 2 hours on this show talking about all the problems that baseball has, and we're talking about the stuff that's off the field. We weren't even talking about the stuff on the field that, all these rules that they try to do, which just don't make a lot of sense. If you want a full Major League Baseball season, folks, you know what you've got to do? You've got to go buy MLB 22, the show. And I'll tell you, because you know what? I saw some of their tweets, and that's some exciting stuff. Not these negotiations between two sides that can't stand each other.
I need to say one thing, and it has to do with when we were dealing with the COVID-19 season with Major League Baseball. Do you remember all the cardboard cutouts we saw in the seats and how pathetic Major League Baseball looked? Because they said, oh, we'll offer if you pay to put your cardboard cutouts in the seats. That should have been a pretenser to realize that Major League Baseball was so cheap that they were going to affect the MLBPA and not care about what these athletes are. But at the same time, the MLBPA and the players are greedy fucks as well. They're a bunch of babies.
It's both sides. It's not. You can't argue one side over the other because they're both like this.
At the end of the day, we all lose. We all lose.
Yep. The fans are the biggest losers.
The fans lose, and even some of the players, and I think, Tom, you had even said this, some of the players that are, in the major leagues that, like, let's say they're like the 23rd, 24th, 25th man on the roster that are making a minimum salary, or even less than, or even the minor leaguers who are getting that small salary, they're living off that. They're the ones that lose too. But the fans lose.
Time out. Excuse me. The minimum salary is $500,000. I wouldn't be complaining about that.
Yeah, no, I mean, I should say more like the minor league ones. That's what it really is.
Yeah,
but
I wouldn't say the 23rd to 25th. I would say more that 26th to 28th guy who has to basically bounce his life around.
The utility guy. Yeah.
Between when the major league gets an injury and
you're Tyler Wades, you're Steven Riddings, you're those kinds of people.
Tyler Wades, wow.
But basically, these two sides, and Tom said it, I think, a couple episodes ago when this started, that they need to lock themselves in a room, take all the food away, take the drinks away, and you just have to stare into each other's eyes like you're going on a blind date, and just get to know each other and say, here's the deal. Here's a hand. Here's another hand. We're going to shake on a deal, and we're going to put our bullshit aside, and we're going to go back and play baseball.
And until you do that, you're not leaving the room.
Just give them a bunch of broken pool cues and say, okay, first guy to die loses.
When do you think when do you think they actually really feel it though? I mean, if it's April that comes along,
they already have. They're already feeling the threat of the season coming.
They're already feeling the threat of the season, but I think it's too late. They should have felt that threat in December when the lockout started.
But
when their wallets get hit, when their wallets start to get a little lighter, then when's
that going to be though? That's the
Wait
thing.
a minute. Spring training games they could care less about because no one really plays in the spring training games anyway. It's when you get to a week before the season. That's why they put that February 28th deadline date out there, because their first games are essentially a month from that date.
And that's another loser in this in all of this is Florida and Arizona. Those two states, which take a lot of money, get a lot of people, a lot of money from people going down to watch those spring training games. They're not going to be there.
I
So
think
that's a loss
I
for
think
them.
also no, I think also the player. You're talking about the players before. I think the fact that spring training lost is partially a loser because now you know what's going to happen. The first week of the season, if somebody tears their ACL, they're going to say, "Oh, because there was no spring training, that they couldn't stretch out their body."
That was the NBA. When the NBA went through the whole situation trying to get back from COVID, everybody got hurt. Everybody.
Yeah, and that's an excellent point, Tom. You know, we didn't even talk about this. If there is even a start of a season, you know, these guys have to ramp up. We'll start seeing some of that into the regular season. And you don't want to see a regular season game where these starters are going 3 innings, not because of the whole, you know, not facing them second time, third time through the order. It's because they're not ramped up enough, these starting pitchers or these players.
Management.
Well, that's why February 14th, that's why they report 2 weeks before games. They have to come in. They have to stretch. They have to work out. They have to. It's not just like everyone thinks that because you're an athlete that you come in and you can just go on the field and play a game. That's not how it works. I don't care if you're the perfect athlete who literally is the talent of LeBron James. I could care less. You have to come in and you have to work out and get your body in tip-top shape to play in a professional sport. It doesn't matter.
Absolutely, yeah. Like what Aaron Judge was talking, real quick, just what Aaron Judge was talking about, like him, Luke Voigt, and what a couple of other players are doing at some like minor complex and stuff. It's not the same thing. I'll tell you right now. It's all bad. It's depressing. It sucks, and it could have ramifications for years. If that's not an understatement. This is
I could see honestly people, you know, people would much rather watch it getting to the point where people would much rather watch video game streamers playing MLB The Show and all these baseball games than watching actual MLB.
They did that during the COVID year. I remember the SNY and the Yes Network and even the MLB feed, Twitter feed itself were playing or showing simulations of old games.
Yeah, but I'm talking about people would rather watch an independent streamer watch a video game.
Yeah.
We jokingly talked about playing MLB The Show. Do you remember that, guys?
XLB.
Yeah.
XLB.
I want to finish this up on one thing, then we'll move on to the next MLB story. You guys know this. I've traveled to many stadiums around the country. I love it. That's something I would do with my father. I've been as far as the middle of the country. I've done Washington, Philadelphia, Baltimore, the Nationals. I've done it all. I was talking about before this whole COVID nonsense was going to California and going and seeing all the stadiums. What makes me, as a baseball fan, want to travel to these stadiums now? What's my incentive?
To have the experience.
No, but what's my incentive with all this nonsense? If
you're right. Okay, you're right.
Nothing.
Because Rob Manfred, the owners, Tony Clark, and the suits over at the Players Association have basically stuck their middle finger at you and said you don't matter.
You know what's funny, though? We've had this whole conversation. We've said nothing about Rob Manfred.
Because Rob Manfred ultimately,
that's all I can say.
Well, he sucks, but he also ultimately in this scenario, you know, for the rule stuff, yeah, he sucked. But for like this scenario, who does Rob Manfred work for?
The owners.
The owners.
And the sick part is, and ironically, just to go back for a second, Roger Goodell is negotiating an extension on his contract to be the commissioner of the sport, even though he has 2 to 3 years left.
And do you know what's sad? Roger Goodell has actually made some strides when you see how bad Rob Manfred is sinking.
Rob Manfred, who, ironically, a lawyer, can't figure out the labor negotiations. Case closed. That's it.
Yeah.
He's a personal injury lawyer.
Wait a minute. Done. Okay. Next story.
If you or a loved one has been diagnosed with baseballitis.
Manfred Law.
Hey, by the way, we did Johnny doesn't know this. I put together a whole NBA parody. Do you remember when we did NBA Cares as a parody?
Yeah.
That got viewed a ton of times, by the way, when we put that out. Maybe we now need to do an MLB Cares on the way.
I wouldn't say MLB Cares, but I do like the idea of Rob Manfred Law.
And maybe he'll promote it better than he promotes his star players.
Oof.
Oh.
Hey, that's another thing, too. He doesn't promote his star players.
Well, look at Mike Trout.
Mike Trout, maybe one of the most dynamic players in all of sports, is not talked about enough because you don't know about him.
I mean,
if you're not a sports guy, what Shohei Ohtani did in LA is so remarkable. But if you don't follow the sport enough, you don't know him.
They finally did the right thing by putting him on the cover of the video game. Finally.
Well, that's going to ruin his career now.
Oh, you're talking about the whole curse. You're one of those guys.
If you look at the players, I mean, we talked about the Madden curse. If you look at the players that are on MLB The Show, it's along the same lines. They've either been hurt that year or they get hurt down the road. So I hope not, but that's another thing. His career might go to waste because they don't have a baseball season this year.
I mean, they mishandled that whole Asian.
You know what? Put Manfred on the cover of the show.
They won't. No, they won't buy. They won't sell any if they do that.
Honestly, guys, if they don't get a deal done by February 28th, I would rather put any money that I would invest in MLB. I would rather take that money and invest it in the Staten Island Ferry Hawks, run by Colin Jost and Pete Davidson and John Catsimatidis.
By the way,
I would in an actual MLB team.
I'll sum this up in one sound.
Get the out of here.
If you don't get it done by February 28th, that's me.
So let's move on. We were originally going to do another story. We're going to skip over that. Let's talk about the Tyler Skaggs trial since we went a little long there. So this whole trial comes up.
I mean, Juan Soto was part of what we just talked about.
Right.
Yeah.
But Matt Harvey testifies in the Tyler Skaggs trial. Now, for people who don't know, this Tyler Skaggs was an Angel pitcher who was, actually, it's not reportedly. He took drugs, oxycodone, and mixing it with a bunch of other things. He passes away, what is it, 3 years ago now? I think it's 2017?
2019. Yeah.
Oh, 2019, excuse me. And
I know. It still feels like 2020.
Right.
I know. It's been 2020 for the past decade now.
So we find this out, and then it comes out during the trial against Eric Kay, who was the PR guy, that was basically dealing drugs. And it's guilty, so we don't have to say allegedly anymore. It came out that he dealt drugs to Skaggs, Matt Harvey, CJ Crone, and a bunch of other players that were on the Angels from 2017 to 2019. But then we find out Matt Harvey testifies in the trial and admits to getting cocaine from this supplier.
And Terry Collins basically go makes the rounds on New York radio saying, "I know nothing." And it's basically, I find a hard time believing that you really didn't know anything.
Actually,
considering that the guy used to get nosebleeds like he was in the space simulator.
Wait, say that again. What did you say that Collins said that he knew about this?
Nothing.
Why the fuck you lying? Oh my god! Stop fucking lying.
I mean, the guy used to get nosebleeds like he was on the space simulator, but
I mean, seriously, like the pictures were so obvious.
Look, if you think, and I'm not here to judge, because what happened to Tyler Skaggs was a tragedy, an absolute tragedy, because you know addiction is of course its own form of sickness. However, if you think that this is only limited to one team and only certain players on that team, I got a bridge to say in Brooklyn.
I guarantee
you there are more players involved. This is a bigger network.
Do you remember, and this is from the Balco books that we read, who that was Mark Farawada and Lance Williams, I think. That was the Balco book with Barry Bonds and the trainer. It said in the book, before the rules in 2003, they basically had bowls of steroids in the locker rooms, and they would just take them.
A glass bowl, like glass bowl full of M&Ms,
like candy. They were taking like HGH as candy. So, are we really surprised that this is a problem going on in Major League Baseball? I don't think so.
I would be surprised if they did anything substantial about it, because it seems to me. I mean, I had no idea that they don't test for those drugs of addiction like cocaine and heroin or pills or stuff like that unless you have a reasonable suspicion that somebody is using. So if you don't see them doing lines, you can't test them for cocaine.
You know what's ironic also? During the lockout, they stopped the testing.
Because technically the drug agreement was expired.
The drug agreement expired, yeah.
So does that mean they can take HGH and all these steroids, and as long as it's cleared out of their system by the time they get to spring training and playing, like they're good?
Giving them ideas.
Well, if you're not gonna be playing baseball, why would you have HGH in your system?
Oof, that's
I
terrible.
mean,
right?
who knows what they take as supplements?
They
Hell,
could
if you
just say
tell
they're
them
gaining
what-
muscle.
They're going to find, I mean, because let's just say like it is. Here's yet another problem with baseball. Number 104 out of I don't know how many is the
5,000.
the drug suspensions are not long enough and they're not harsh enough. Like you guys were just saying in your story. I mean, Matt Harvey, who I don't know if he could even sign it with another team, depending with how bad he's been, but he's facing a 60-game suspension. With him being if he was a starting pitcher, he's missing 12 starts. That's all he's going to miss because of this. If that's the case.
The rule is different, I think, for Major League Baseball. Like, you actually have to sign to a team before your suspension starts. I don't know how it.
Yeah.
I think in the NBA, I think you just get suspended. I think, and then it ends. In the NFL, I think you have to be on a team.
Yeah, NFL.
Yes, that is it. Yeah.
But MLB is the strictest when it comes to suspensions. You have to literally be signed on a roster for your suspension to start.
It's like having a warrant out.
Fine, but it's still like when you're on that team, the suspensions are still not strict enough.
To be honest, if they really want to get this out of the sport, they should ban people after one time.
I mean,
yeah,
but
they'll never agree to that.
Problem,
that's another thing. Both sides, they'll never agree to that.
They'll never agree to that. But
I agree with you, Nick. I think that's a great idea, but it's just, they'll never do that.
You're saying that they can agree on stuff? They can't agree on big matters.
Nick and I can agree, but the other sides can't.
But
I mean,
so I'm looking at Twitter right now. Actually, Johnny, I'm on one of your tweets that promotes our episode today.
Yeah.
And there's an account that's called Do It for Baseball that has just commented with a petition on change.org in which basically it says okay, here it is. Oh wow, and it's already at 450 signatures. Here's what it says. Urge MLB and MLBPA resolution. Hold continuous meeting until CBA agreement is reached. People actually want them to live up to their word. And people are so sick of these guys.
So they want him to agree, like to talk have meetings every day, or until
do you want me to read the whole?
No.
Just let me see the headline again, real quick. Just give me that picture, real quick.
Okay.
Let me see. Urge resolution. Hold continuous meeting until an agreement is reached. Well, yeah, I mean that's such a great idea, but I mean,
they want the locked door idea. They want it.
Yeah, you just said it,
and they still will, but they still won't get anything done.
They won't get anything done.
I'm sorry. It's just one of those things where it's just like.
I said this I said this last week, actually. It's as if they looked at the past couple of years what the NFL has gone through, especially with domestic abuse and, the Roger Two-Check Skadell, as we call him.
Hold my beer.
So it's like the MLB and Rob Manfred took a look at that and said, that's not how you dig your own grave. This is how you dig your own grave.
By the way, I would sum this whole thing up between the spring training delay and this trial, and all I can hear is Rob Manfred saying one thing.
RELAX.
Shut up.
No, I'm serious. Like, I guarantee
I'm not telling you. I'm telling Aaron Rodgers.
No, I am aware, but I'm saying, like, I see Rob Manfred. Like I said, Roger Goodell was sitting in his bathtub, drinking wine, eating bonbons during the draft. Like, I see Rob Manfred sitting on his very expensive chair in his mansion, thinking about how much money I can save if the season doesn't start to the owner so that I can get my next contract.
I save if I switch to Geico?
15 minutes could save you more games on car insurance.
It's $1 billion sport, and this motherfucker is still looking to cut coupons.
Just real quick, though, getting back to that the trial. I mean, TJ Quinn, if you were following him, he had some very detailed stuff about that. Very alarming. The whole Matt Harvey thing, obviously being in New York, obviously takes a big, you hope that he's going to be all right in all this. But, the time, like you said, Nick, the timing of all this between the, lockout and then this comes out, it's just alarming. And, so Eric Kay, the trainer, got, 20 years he's facing right now?
The PR consultant.
The PR consultant, yeah.
Consultant.
Insulting, yeah.
And baseball's black eye. Like right now, it's just a bruise all around, and then over the past year or two, it's just gotten bigger. It's about to
No,
swell the
it's
whole
not a
face.
black eye. They basically went in with a surgical tool, carved the eye out, and said, "You're going to be one eye Mike." Basically.
So the entire MLB is going to be the Pittsburgh Pirates then.
Yeah, but still, a black eye implies that somebody gave them. No, they punched themselves in the face.
They literally just wait. Actually,
Quit
you know what? No, you know what? They kept doing that and more.
You know who we might have to do that to? We might have to do that to Adam Silver. Let's talk about this.
Oh, God.
So, very conveniently, after the whole Nets Sixers trade went down with Kyrie and Ben Simmons, I mean, not James Harden and Ben Simmons.
That would have been better.
Well, Adam Silver has now come out and basically hinted that New York City should review its vaccination mandate rules. So now let me be a little more specific with this. So for those of you who may have been sleeping under a rock for the past 2 years and not paying attention to New York City, basically to get into, at least from a fan's perspective, to get into arenas for us fans, basically we have to be vaccinated. Or as I think, yeah, in the city,
you have to have proof of vaccination.
Yeah, I was going to say, there is no negative, if you test negative within 24 hours, there's none of that. It is, you have to be vaccinated. So according to, of course, that presents problems, and we've talked about it already ad nauseum with Kyrie Irving over the past how many months about him wanting to be basically a part-time player. Well, conveniently, it was already convenient enough that the Nets went from absolutely not to, you know what, yeah. And now Adam Silver is going in that same direction. He's basically nudging New York City Mayor Eric Adams to basically, maybe you should review this so we can get Kyrie, maybe.
So basically, they want the rules broken so that they can get their star athlete back on the court.
Well, Mr. Nets fan, what do you think about all that?
Well, I just want him gone from the sport in general just because I can't stand him anymore. But at the same time, just get the vaccine. This is not rocket science. I mean, actually, let me take that back. We're talking about someone who thought the Earth was flat, so maybe it is rocket science.
I still think he should have a practice, where basically we get a doctor in with a needle and basically chase him around up and down the court.
Or you know what? Get one of those blowguns like you see in certain movies and just go.
Actually, you know what? That might be perfect for this.
Did we just become best friends? Yep.
Him, the doctor with the needle, and Kyrie. Did we just become best friends? Yeah, we did. You got the vaccine. But at the same time, it's just like the whole Adam Silver thing is just.
Look at all the failure.
I mean, guys, this is not the first time we've had to talk about the NBA and vaccinations in a negative light. Do you remember the 2020-21 season in which they wanted to, potentially jump the line in front of our frontline workers for the vaccine?
Yeah, that was before the vaccine. Yeah, that was before the vaccines were widely available.
And how Charles Barkley said, players should go first because we pay so much taxes.
Anyone who listens to Charles Barkley deserves a medal. Let's just put it that way.
No one's taken him seriously since 1998.
Well,
wait till March Madness; it gets even better. March Madness. If I'm listening to March Madness, is always a lot of fun.
Maybe I would take him seriously if he actually won something.
Oof!
Ooh!
Mic drop there. Jeez.
Ooh! The ref.
No, this is. You know what this story caused though? Can you imagine they do change the rules just in time for like the end of the season into the playoffs, and Kyrie is able to come back?
I will feel sick.
It doesn't matter because the Nets are right now in the dumpster, like the Knicks are. New York basketball is in the dumpster.
You have to pick your poison. I'm a Knicks fan, so I can talk to you about this right now, Nick. I've always said, the Nets can have Kyrie. I never wanted him, but this would cause something else. But the Nets. The crazy thing is, when you look at the Nets and this whole thing, it's the whole deal with Harden and stuff doesn't really change them because you're still banking on so much stuff, and it's hard to figure them out because of this whole thing.
And Kyrie's done it to himself.
Kyrie,
he has done it to himself. That's pretty fair.
You didn't know Kyrie got a doctoral degree while he was sitting out?
What science did he study?
or something? I don't even know.
What study did he study?
Kyrieism.
Yeah,
Kyrieism.
exactly. Crazy.
This is such
Kyrie
a
Irving's
tricky.
big book of science.
It's such a tricky thing because you almost have to think. Maybe Silver's thinking about this too. The optics of all this. You have to wonder if this does happen. If they allow them to change the rules in time for the end of the season, then look at the other teams are going to say, "Wait, why are you doing this? This should be towards the end of the season."
It doesn't matter.
Well,
it really doesn't. It really doesn't.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. The rules are broken. That's it.
All right, one last note here. One last story we got to get to. I questioning how. So the Cowboys have basically they have paid $2.4 million in a settlement. What was this about? Voyeurism. Voyeurism specifically in the cheerleaders' locker room in 2015.
I'm sorry. Are we?
Yes, setting up video cameras in the cheerleader locker room.
Wait a minute. I'm sorry. Are we back in the a 1970s or 1980s movie?
I mean, considering the way they're acting like a frat house, I'm not surprised. I'm really not surprised, especially considering it seems to be a pervert factory over there.
Well, the reason we brought this up is because a couple weeks ago we talked about the Washington. Let me get this right. Commanders now. Because ironically, that makes sense considering that their owner is a commanding pig, but that's a whole different situation. But
WFT, WTF.
Exactly. Good point. So now they have their situation where apparently one of the alleged cheerleaders came out. Actually, not alleged. She did come out.
One of the cheerleaders, not the alleged cheerleader, because
you know what I meant.
Hey, she didn't just show up with a pair of pom-poms going, "Hey, I'm a cheerleader. Go ahead."
Do I really want to make that joke? I was going to say that anyone can show up with pom-poms and say they were a cheerleader. But anyway, I was going to, you know what I mean. But that story comes out. I almost said Washington football team. See, now it's all stuck in my head. The Commanders had to do a whole investigation. Well, Snyder had to do his own investigation. He hired his own investigative team because we all know how that goes. And now the Cowboys have their own problems. But I'm not surprised with Jerry.
I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if Jerry ran interference for the guy.
By the way, Tom had probably one of the best impressions of all time a couple weeks ago. We put that up, and that clip went almost viral in a sense.
That was a thing of magic, but I mean,
we had to pay off $2.4 million. I mean, it doesn't matter. We still got the greatest team here on the face of this earth. We got the greatest quarterback in Dak Prescott. Where Zeke is going to come back. Tony Pollard's going to be ready. How about them Cowboys?
Wow,
it's pretty good. It's better than the actual team.
How about them Cowboys? How about them Cowboys?
God.
It's just look at the team and not the multiple sexual assault allegations we have against.
Look over here. We're not. Stay away from the illusion behind the wall. That's like the whole.
Pay no attention to the man behind the curtain.
Pay no attention to the pervert behind the curtain.
Okay, we're done.
Well, Nick, throw that slide up, though, because we got to promote the other show.
Okay, so we got to give Johnny some spotlight here. Thanks, Johnny, for coming on. Game on with Johnny Montalbano. Here is joining the Empty the Bench Network coming the week of March 13th.
March Madness!
I'm looking forward to it. Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. We're going to look back at what's happened in the week past, look ahead to what's going on. And I'll tell you, it's looking like March Madness is going to be the lead thing because that's actually right around when the tournament starts. I believe that's when the first four starts that Tuesday. Then March Madness starts on the actual NCAA tournament starts on St. Patrick's Day. So we'll be looking at that. We'll be looking as basketball and hockey start to wind down.
I was going to say, it's not like you can talk about another sport.
Look, I don't think we're going to – that's a good point. I'll be curious where baseball's going to be. I don't think we're going to be anywhere close, though, on March 13th than where we are right now.
Well, actually, if that's the case, then there might – because the deadline is the 28th. If you're saying that we're not going to be anywhere close to March 13th.
I know we're not. We're not going to be anywhere close by February 28th. I'll tell you that right now. We're not. So, but there'll be enough stuff to talk about. There'll be NFL stuff for sure. So, like they say, stay tuned, folks.
Wait a minute. As Nick would say, you have to talk curling instead.
Yeah, we're going to have to.
I'll be honest with you. I've watched it.
I mean, I kind of forgot about the Olympics.
Look, I'm
Anyway.
a Knicks fan. You want me to watch them after they blew another 20-point lead the other day to the Nets? An embarrassment.
I laughed so hard knowing that they were getting blown out in the first half, and then they came back.
It's like all the jokes I used to make about curling actually came true.
Well, look, I mean, as a Knicks fan, I'll tell you right now, we'll be talking about them as well because Tom Thibodeau is going to be an interesting point. As somebody who thought that he was a lock to stay for a while, he may not make it past this year.
Yeah. And by the way, to the Knicks fans who are saying, "Oh, I knew Tom Thibodeau wasn't going to last."
It's not his fault. It's not really his fault, but he's going to be the fall guy. Can you play me the Dr.
Phil sound effect?
What?
Can you play me the Dr. Phil sound effect?
Oh,
to the Knicks fans who
you know, Tom, what sucks about it is it's not really his fault, but he's going to take the fall for it.
Out of here.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you. But yeah, no, it's not Thibodeau's fault.
But we'll be talking about them, and we'll see where the Nets are, and we'll see where the sports world is by March 13th. So stay tuned, folks. Game on coming up the week of March 13th here on ETB Network.
Yes, we have this, and we have news coming up for a potential sponsor on the way as well. So you're gonna have to pay attention to that as well.
And we got more shows that are going to be coming. More shows in the kitty that are going to be popping up.
There's so many shows that you're actually going to have to treat it like a DVR.
So here's what you're going to do. If you're watching us on Twitter, make sure to give the like and please retweet the episode. If you're on Facebook, make sure to like the show, like the page, give a follow to the page, and make sure to share this episode around and spread it.
Ring the bell!
If you're watching on YouTube, make sure to subscribe and, as Nick said, to ring the bell to make sure you get notified of everything, whether it's Empty the Bench, Beyond the Bench, Living Life, Here Now the News, Soundproof, Game On, and anything else that's going to be popping up. And make sure to give us a like.
Actually, we can say this one too. The Hirsch Show.
And the Hirsch Show is coming. Yeah, Kyle Hirsch, she just dropped the other night.
Yeah, so you have so much content coming out of your ears. Just be careful. You might end up like Matt Harvey and start bleeding.
Oh God.
Oh, man.
Ow.
Sorry.
I'm ending this. I'm ending this now. Okay. For Johnny Mlbpa, Johnny, thank you so much for coming on today.
Thank you, guys. This is a pleasure.
Welcome aboard.
For Johnny.
Thank you.
For Johnny. For Nick. I'm Tom Albano. We'll see you next time. Take care, everybody.
Good night, everybody.
Good night, everybody. We'll see you next week.